He had me thinking like, I'm ready for this guy to start week 1.
Once a giant, always a giant. For me, it's only a giant.
What's going on YouTube? Diggy546. And man, man, we just wrapped up probably the most fun preseason we've had in a really long time. Probably since 2019, where Daniel Jones was a rookie and he came out there against the Jets and like hit an open guy, hit another open guy, hit it like it was like strike after strike after strike on that one drive. And then we should have known. We should have known either the football gods were snatching were snatching Daniel Jones's powers away, or it was just a sign. That was just a sign that we were not going to get the best out of Daniel Jones, because right after you had that flawless drive against the Jets, I think the lights went out. They had to delay the game, and then they just ended up sitting Daniel Jones for the rest of that game because it had been so long. But I want to pull up the stats. First off, 42-10 last night against the Patriots. 42-10. Woolridge, their starting quarterback, threw for 82 yards, which, listen, we've seen that this backup Giants defense is not, it has not looked good this preseason. It just hasn't. But today it did look good. They tackle better, they cover better, and it's a different team, but tackling better is that's universal. They tackle better, they came to play. Man, TJ Moore was flying out there. It really is unfortunate to see this guy. He was flying around out there. He made some nice tackles. Every time he saw him make a play, he was like getting hype. Caught the pick 6, was doing his thing on special teams, and maybe had an outside shot of making this team. But TJ Moore is, I'm sure he's probably out for the season, and that's just unfortunate. Hopefully he can come back next year, be on the practice squad, get another opportunity. But Woolridge, like I said, 82 yards and a touchdown. Really nice job from the defense. As far as rushing, our best rushing defending game so far. 52 yards rushing for their leading rusher, then 30 with Hasty behind him. Bernard at 16, Woolridge at 12. So including the quarterback 12 yards, we gave up 120 yards. Gave up 120 yards, which isn't bad. Not what you want, in an ideal scenario, but the run game did not control the game, and they averaged less than 3.5 yards a carry. So let's get to the elephant in the room. Jaxson Dart looked absolutely incredible in that first drive. That first drive, Jaxson Dart looked absolutely, he had me thinking like, I'm ready for this guy to start week 1. I'm ready for him to start week 1 because the way he looked. Now I know, first off, there were some starters out there, but for the most part, he was playing against backups and third stringers and guys trying to make the team. But the way he looked, just him operating in a vacuum, looked amazing. The poise that this guy has, the poise that this young quarterback has, is ridiculous. He is constantly back there, relaxed, moving around. You see guys come free, like Evan Neal, just no selling, just like completely just no selling the fact that he needs to block. Like, God forbid Evan Neal block somebody, and I'll get to Evan Neal in a bit. This might be a little bit long because I'm gonna kind of use this as a recap and update on some of these battles. But Jaxson Dart looked incredible, moving around in the pocket, stepping up at the beginning of the game, hitting Gunnar Olszewski, who I think has to make this roster at this point. Good return man, good receiver. If you got a chance to look at that Jaxson Dart video I made a couple days ago, Gunnar Olszewski was open a lot, and he has shown that he can be a serviceable slot receiver. If he's your backup slot, I feel solid about that. And on top of that, he can be a returner. So I think Gunnar may take this spot away from Ihmir Smith-Marsette. But back to Dart, let's just list off the stats. 6 for 12, 81 yards and a touchdown. Now, that 6 for 12 should have definitely been more like 9 for 12 and 140 yards and maybe multiple touchdowns. Because Jalen Hyatt everybody's favorite receiver, everybody's receiver that the Giants have just been oppressing, and the Giants they're just holding him back. This guy dropped 2 passes, 2 dimes, 2 darts. We're not gonna say dimes, 2 darts from Jaxson Dart, 2 beautifully placed passes from Jaxson Dart right in the breadbasket. It wasn't even he had to reach out to catch it with his hands. It landed right in the breadbasket. As he's looking over his shoulder to catch the ball, it landed right here. So for him to drop 2 of those, again, he should have had those 2 passes to Jalen Hyatt, which maybe puts him at like 120 yards. And then he should have also had a pass that, he was under pressure, moved a little bit, and threw a ball that Bo Collins should have caught. And they say, it was a tough dive and catch. Bo Collins dove, but he also had the ball in his chest, and he just dropped it. So Dart had 3 drops. That was frustrating. And then Dart took off, ran for like 20 yards. And I'm just like, please slide, please slide, please slide. And then he says, okay, I see the safety coming down here at 1,000,000 miles an hour. I'm going to try to cut back into the open field. And he tries to cut back against the safety and just gets walloped, and his head smacks on the ground. So he goes into concussion protocol, and that wrapped up Jaxson Dart's day. And maybe that's the play that shows him that he needs to slide. If Jaxson Dart does end up playing this year, I have a lot of faith in him. I think that he may, at the end of the season, he may be the best quarterback on this roster. I like Russ. I think Russ still is an above average quarterback. But what I've seen from Jaxson Dart, he may be the best quarterback on this roster. And even then, still, maybe let him sit for a while. Maybe let him sit. Watch how Russ prepares for games. Watch how Russ gets ready for games. Watch how he attacks games. How they shift the game plan in game. And, if Russ isn't able to handle things and things aren't looking the best, then go ahead and slide Jaxson Dart in. And I think Jaxson Dart might be able to provide a spark there. But let's move on. Let's just get the rest of the quarterbacks out of the way. Obviously, Russ didn't play. Jameis Winston he basically stole Jaxson Dart's touchdown because all of a sudden Jalen Hyatt could catch when Jameis Winston threw him a go ball. But Jameis Winston looked solid. Took some nice deep shots. One there looked like it was obvious pass interference on Bo Collins. He wasn't able to get back to the middle of the field to catch that ball. But, it is what it is there. And then another one, I don't know if it was a miscommunication, but Jameis Winston threw an interception in the end zone. But let's get to Tommy DeVito. And this may be the last time you see me talk about Tommy DeVito. But, again, I said it on Twitter. And people think I'm probably crazy for saying this. For about 30 seconds, when he beat the Packers and he beat Washington, for about 30 seconds, I'll tell you, for about 30 seconds, I was like, maybe this is like the greatest story ever and Tommy DeVito will be our franchise quarterback. Obviously, he's not. Obviously, he wasn't. He lacks a lot in the talent department, but Tommy DeVito has had the best offseason that he has had since being a Giant. The best offseason by far. And before, I want to get these stats off before I finish talking about DeVito, because let's look at 2024 versus 2025 for the Giants. So, 2024, the Giants they went 1-2, and the preseason doesn't matter, but when the preseason continues to reflect the regular season for the Giants every year, I would say it matters. So let's look. Preseason 1-2 last year, points scored by the Giants, 30 points in 3 games for the Giants last year. 30 points in 3 preseason games for the Giants last year. And we gave up 41 points in 3 preseason games. So our points given up wasn't bad, but our points scored was horrible. It was horrible. And then this year. So this year the Giants have given up 47 points in 3 games, which again is solid. I think that's the same as last year or close. And then 107 points we've scored. So we have an average outcome of 35-16 per game this year. We scored 30 points all of preseason last year. So, again, preseason doesn't matter. Preseason doesn't count. But judging off of how bad we've looked in the preseason during the Daniel Jones era, and then that translated over to the regular season, I would say that this is a good sign at the very least. We scored over 30 every single game. We basically blew every team out. And this isn't me saying that the Giants are going to be a juggernaut, but it seems like we have a little bit more umph to us. Like we have a little bit more, competition. Like we're going to actually be able to have some depth, because before we had guys who just weren't NFL players on our second team. So now we're not in that position. So that's really good to see. Again, we'll see how that translates over. But if the bad translates over after all that time, then some of this good has to translate over. But again, that brings me to DeVito. So DeVito was 17 for 20, 198 yards and 3 touchdowns. DeVito had a game, man. He had a game yesterday. He looked basically flawless. Made a lot of great decisions, got rid of the ball quickly, moved around in the pocket well. I mean, DeVito looked the best that he has ever looked as a Giant. Only had a 1 rushing yard, so not much running, but throwing the ball, man, 17 for 20. DeVito killed it, man. DeVito looked amazing. And this isn't me saying like he should be a starter somewhere, but I think DeVito has earned the chance to be a backup quarterback. And I'll throw this out there. Either Tommy DeVito is going to get cut and claimed by a different team, or if the Giants really like this guy and really say, he's great in our system and everything like that, then maybe you listen to those calls about Jameis Winston. Now, I like Jameis as a leader and as a mentor to Jaxson Dart, and I wouldn't do that. But if the Giants do feel good about DeVito and they say we have Russ here for a year to mentor Jaxson Dart, maybe you listen to some of those Jameis calls and maybe you say Tommy DeVito is our backup quarterback for the next, 4 years, and we pay him, $5 million a year, or I don't know. Maybe that's too much, but you all get what I'm saying. Maybe Tommy DeVito is the backup quarterback of the future, because it seems like he's doing great in this offense. He's comfortable. He's making good decisions, and he has won games in this league before, and that was multiple years ago. And again, he looks really good. So most likely what will happen is that Tommy DeVito will probably be cut, and he probably will be claimed by another team. And good luck to DeVito. A lot of people hate Tommy DeVito because of the games that he won that made us maybe lose out on Jaden Daniels. Oh boy, maybe maybe we lost out on Jaden Daniels because of DeVito. And if so, I kind of do hold a grudge there. But Tommy DeVito, it was kind of fun having him here. That whole DeVito, mania was kind of fun in a lost season, in a state of misery as a Giants fan. So let's look at what the running backs did. Dante Miller was the leading rusher at 41 yards, at 3.7 yards per carry. Ward had a catch and run that was amazing. I think it was a screen. He caught that and turned upfield and made something happen. Scored on like a 40-something yard touchdown. But man, let's talk about this running back room. First off, we saw Scat, 3 carries, 12 yards, not bad, 4 yards per carry. Got off the field pretty quick coming off that hamstring. But obviously, Scatterboo's going to make the team. Tyrone Tracy's going to make it. Singletary seems like he's going to make it. I've been a guy who's been saying maybe we need to keep Turbo Miller. But as I see him carry the ball more and more, I see things that I like and I see things that I don't like. Things that I like is Turbo Miller is really good at getting upfield to where he's not the biggest guy, but he's a guy that is falling forward. Like, if you get what I'm saying, he's a guy that's falling forward even though he's not like a bruiser. He's able to kind of fall forward even through contact. And I don't even know if he's 200 pounds. But things I don't like about Dante Miller, and let me say something else I like about Dante Miller. In the screen game, he's very good, again, at catching the screen, getting upfield. That's what you want in the screen game. We don't need a bunch of like hesitating in the screen game. But what I don't like from Dante Miller is that when he's one-on-one with the corner, when he's one-on-one with the safety, when he's one-on-one with the linebacker, he cannot make the guy miss. He does not have any bag when it comes to making a guy miss in the open field. And I feel like that's the number one thing that you need as a running back in the NFL. You have to be able to make a guy miss in the open field, or you have to be able to run a guy over. One of the two. You like if it's you and you have 6 yards to go and you're one-on-one with the cornerback as my running back, my starting second string, third string running back, as a running back, that corner should not tackle you 8 times out of 10. That should be like candy from a baby every time you're one-on-one with the corner. And corners are just kind of grabbing them and slamming them on the ground. It's like once they get a good hold of him and he doesn't like have that head of steam, they're just slamming him on the ground and there's not much. It's like he hits a brick wall. He can't move any further than that player. So that's something I'm concerned about. And that kind of gives me some hesitation because people love to talk about Singletary and say that we should cut him and he stinks and he shouldn't get any carries or touches. But Singletary has shown consistently that in that position, he's either going to run into the guy and push him back a couple yards and get some yards there, or he's going to get around the guy. And he's shown that consistently. And he's shown the ability to consistently score in the short area. And no one else on this roster has shown that ability. Cam Scatterbull has barely played, so he hasn't shown that either. So those are just some things I'm seeing from Turbo Miller. He seems like he might just be a guy that either we keep on this roster because we like him as a gunner and we like him on special teams and maybe we want him in the kick return game, not punt return, but kick return where it's more about getting straight up field. And, maybe that's his role. But if not, if they don't value him there, keeping him just as a running back and I just can't see it happening. And I think he may not get claimed because other teams are going to notice that in his game. Another thing I like about him, again, is the screen game. And, maybe he's here for special teams and screens. Maybe he's here for special teams and screens and tosses. Okay. So I want to make sure I'm covering everything. I want to talk about the receivers. I talked about Gunner pretty quickly. I like what I'm seeing from him in the receiving game and also in the return game. He's a guy that can do both. Lil Jordan Humphrey had another nice catch. He's a guy I wish we could keep 8 receivers. Because Lil Jordan Humphrey, a guy like that comes in handy when you go through a season and you go through that attrition and you need a guy like there that can win contested catches, that can box guys out on slants. And I just don't know if he's going to make it. I just don't know if he'll make it. Then you got Montrell Washington, who made some nice catches over this summer, who made another couple nice run after the catch plays yesterday. Only 26 yards, but flashed a little bit. Then you got Amir Smith-Marset, who to me has not proven that he's going to be a good down and down out receiver if we need him as our backup slot. He just hasn't proven that. He's done it in practice, but he hasn't done it in the preseason. So I haven't seen every practice, every snap. I can't judge that, but from what I've seen, he seems like a guy like Gunnar Olszewski may be pushing him out. Let's look at the rest of the receivers. Bly didn't really do much. Did have a nice couple plays last week, but didn't do much today or yesterday. And Hyatt is the guy that is kind of frustrating because, yes, he caught that touchdown, but he also dropped two other deep balls. And Hyatt has never had a catching issue. He's never had a ball tracking or catching issue, and that's what's frustrating is now we have ball tracking and catching issues because he's been a guy that's been exceptional at seeing the ball in the air and plucking it out of the air. And I don't know where that guy went. Maybe he's got to get some confidence back, but I don't know where that guy went. So Hyatt has absolutely got to get more consistent. I don't think he has that same speed. The guy put on 20 pounds this offseason. You don't put on 20 pounds and maintain your speed in a couple months. It just doesn't happen. The fact that this is the tangent. The fact that football fans consistently believe that these players are putting on 20 pounds of muscle from January to August, or not even August because they come in the spring, from January to May. You really think these players are putting on 20 pounds of pure muscle? If these players were able to do that, all of these guys would when they retire from football, all of these guys could step on a bodybuilding stage. all of them could step on the bodybuilding stage, no issue. Because if they're able to just say, oh, let me just throw on 20 pounds in the next 3 months of pure muscle, they would all be the greatest bodybuilders of all time. So it's not pure muscle. Most of it was fat. If he went from 171 to 194 in a matter of four or 5 months, the guy put on maybe about 6-7 pounds of muscle, maybe. If he like never has ever weight trained in his life, maybe put on 3 pounds of muscle, 4 pounds in 5 months. Got a lot of resources. Let's give him 6-7 pounds of muscle. The rest of that is fat. So he's not as fast as he was. He still is a blazer, still is running by people, so that's fine. But he's not that level of fast anymore. But if he can continue to get behind people, pause. If he can continue to do that, then he's a guy that should be able to make plays this year because Russ, of course, has the moon ball that everybody keeps talking about, and he should be running under those and catching them and running into the end zone. So hopefully he can do that this year. If not, he's a waste of a roster spot because there are young guys like Bo Collins who have a similar skill set. And at this point, Bo Collins may not be that much slower than him. And then you have guys like Montrell Washington, who has shown the ability to work the middle of the field, the intermediate area, the short area. He's shown that ability. You also got a veteran like Zach Pascal, who made a nice catch yesterday, who, is a vet that can play the game. He can get open. He can do his thing. You got all these guys who are proven receivers, or not proven, but guys who are receivers who can run more routes more effectively than Jalen Hyatt. And we're depending on Jalen Hyatt for this one trick pony, getting behind the defense and scoring. We need him to do that at least 5 or 6 times in a year, 5 or 6 times this year, to justify him making the roster over some of these guys like Lil Jordan Humphrey, who's probably going to be cut for Hyatt, who I think is probably a better receiver. And if someone got hurt and we needed someone for an entire game, I might want Lil Jordan Humphrey over Jalen Hyatt, which is frustrating because we spent a 3rd round pick and we traded up to get him. Defense, because I completely not talked about defense today. So let's talk about Trace Ford. Trace Ford, man, he didn't get a sack. Did he get a sack today? He did get a sack. Okay, so he got a sack yesterday. So besides that sack, man, Trace Ford has been all over the place all preseason. I'm gonna say, like, get this guy on the roster. Get him on the roster. Let him get on the roster because you got Abdul Carter, you got Brian Burns, you got Kayvon Thibodeau, you got Golston, and sometimes you'll have a 5th edge. Your 5th edge should not be Timon Fox. He's been here for a million years. He is not going to be the guy, who's a nice rotational pass rusher. He just hasn't done it. So let's give Trace Ford let's give him a chance. Because I also feel like other teams have been watching him, and if we cut this guy, he's probably not going to make it on the practice squad. It's possible. I would say it's a 50-50. I would say it's a 50-50 he makes a practice squad, but I wouldn't risk it. Just get this guy on the roster, and maybe he's a rotational guy towards the end of the year where you're just rotating guys in and out, and you're just causing havoc. Cordell Flott, man, love to see it. Been watching Cordell Flott since LSU, so about altogether, like, I don't know, maybe 6-7 years now with the Giants and LSU. So he's going into his last year of his contract, so it's been a while. It's just good to see the way that Cordell Flott, one, has like physically grown, like physically put on more weight since he got in the NFL, is a stronger player. That's how you put on weight in the NFL. Cordell Flott has put on maybe like 15 pounds over 4 years. So that's mostly muscle. But Flott has looked really good. The guy's ball skills are great. He's gonna catch about 3 or 4 interceptions this year if he's cornerback too, because he's really good at closing. He's really good at knowing where the ball is in the air, and of course we're struggling there with Deonte Banks, but Cordell Flott really looks good, and I'm excited to see him this year. I think there'll probably be a rotation at cornerback too. Like he'll be out there sometimes. Banks will be out there sometimes, but Cordell Flott looks really good. They tried him twice today, broke up 2 passes. Let's look at who else I might be missing that I want to make sure I cover. Darius Alexander to me looked better. Really good in the run game. If you look at Darius Alexander in college, he's a power rusher. He's a power guy. He's not a twitchy, bendy guy. He has shown some bend, but he's mostly a power guy. And I like his hands in the run game so far. I like his hands in the run game so far. He's been pretty stout in the run game, and I think by the time you get to week 4 or 5, he may be a guy that I trust to play, a good percentage of snaps beside Dexter Lawrence, in that rotation with him and Will Robertson Harris. Hopefully he can be a guy that you can just trust to be in that rotation, to come in, stop the run, and start to get a little bit more confident and get your feet under you and start moving the pocket, start pushing the pocket. I think that could be good. Elijah Chapman, right? Another guy who's probably going to make this roster, but not because of what he's doing at defensive tackle, because we didn't even see the guy make any plays at defensive tackle. He's looking pretty good at fullback. He's looking pretty good. He's an athletic guy. He's a big fullback, but a very tiny defensive tackle. So Chapman looks pretty good. And then another guy I wanted to talk about is Deontay Johnson. Had some nice plays in coverage. Had some nice plays as far as making some tackles in the open field. Deontay Johnson was a guy that flashed last year for us, but we just have not seen, we just haven't seen him. He got hurt. So hopefully Deontay Johnson is going to come out here this year and be a third or fourth linebacker for us and be a solid player. But that remains to be seen what will happen there. But that's pretty much everybody on the defense. The last thing I want to close this out with is the tight end room. The tight end room. The tight end room is Dulcich, Theo Johnson, Bellinger. You got why am I forgetting guys' names? Manhurts. And then you got Fedoni. So I might even be forgetting a guy, but let's count it. Bellinger, Fedoni, Manhurts, Theo Johnson, Dulcich. Might be forgetting a guy, but that's 5 tight ends right there. I think you probably keep 4. Man, this is a tough decision because all Daniel Bellinger does is his job. All he does is his job. He comes out there, he catches everything that the quarterback throws to him. He gets open, he breaks tackles. He's not a blazer. He's not as fast as the other tight ends, and Manhurts isn't either. But he's not a blazer, but he does his job. He's a blocker. He's okay. He's okay as a blocker. He's not what some people think he is as a blocker because, he's not a fast guy. So people assume that he's like, causing mayhem and like jacking guys up in the run game. He's not really doing that, but he's okay. And he's a pretty good receiving tight end. I think he's a guy that could start. He's a low-end starting tight end on a lot of teams because he does things very reliably. Then you got Dulcich, who's not blocking anybody. He's not blocking anybody, but the guy, as you see, is blazing fast, knows how to get open, can get up the field in a hurry, can catch the ball, can high point. The guy's like 6'7". He's a guy that also was playing special teams and making tackles on specials. So Dulcich, to me, is a weapon at tight end. And, he's also a guy that can play some special teams for you. Then you got Fedoni. We just drafted the guy. I've heard multiple times that other teams were trying to trade up to take the guy in the 7th round. We ended up taking him. If we cut Fedoni, he's going to be claimed by another team. 100%. Another team that wanted to spend a draft pick on this guy is going to claim Thomas Fedoni after he's already proven that he probably is the player that they thought he was, which is athletic, got wiggle to him, is able to get up the field in a hurry, is 6'7" and can snatch the ball out of the air when your quarterback airmails it. And also, again, caught the ball yesterday, had some yak, fell forward about 8 or 9 yards. Fedoni should be on this roster, and if the Giants cut him, they wasted their 7th round pick because he's gone. So those 3 right there I've covered. And you got Manhurts, who's okay. You're not going to be really throwing him many passes, but I have seen him catch the ball and do, solid things. But Manhurts is a blocker. Let's not make any bones about it. Manhurts is a blocker, and he's actually a good blocker. He's a specialist. He's a violent blocker. He actually does his job there, and we don't have anybody else that's as good as him at all. And that's what he does. And then Theo Johnson, of course, is a guy that we think has a high ceiling. He's a guy that, on that screen, the guy took off on that screen. I mean, you don't see guys that are 6'6" and like 260, 250 something, however big the guy is. You don't see guys like that accelerate like that. You just never see that. So for him to do that was ridiculous. So he's obviously the guy with star potential on this team. He's your tight end one for sure. And he also has a chance to become a great blocker. And if the Giants trust him as a blocker, that would influence the decision I will make. And then you got a guy I'm forgetting. Who am I forgetting? I did Fedoni, I did Bellinger, I did Manhurt, I did Dulcich, and then Theo Johnson. So that's everybody. So those are your 5 tight ends. And it looks like because Bellinger is owed $3.5 million this year, it's probably going to be the odd man out. Do I think that he's the worst tight end on the roster? No, I don't. I would probably say it's probably Fedoni. It might be Dulcich because of what he can't do as a blocker. But those guys give you higher highs on the things they are good at, and they're not getting paid $3.5 million a year. So because of that, it may be the end of Daniel Bellinger as a Giant, which is a really strange tenure as a Giant because he came out and everybody was excited for the guy, and then he gets poked in the eye, and I think he got like called for a penalty too as he got poked in the eye or something. And that was something that might have been some years later where he got like face mask and then got called for a face mask, but got poked in the eye. And ever since then, it's like the Giants he just fell out of favor with the Giants. He just fell out of favor after that. So, it is what it is there. I wish Daniel Bellinger the best if he does end up getting cut, but it's looking like we're going to probably keep Dulcich. The guy's gotten in the end zone 3 times this preseason. I mean, he's got all the tools. And I don't understand why you would let a guy like that walk, because if you have one injury at tight end, if, knock on wood, if Theo Johnson or, you'll probably be at this point swapping in Fedoni and Dulcich. If one of these guys get hurt, you feel good about another one of these guys being a good receiving tight end for us. And I think that's what the rationale will be. So I'm looking at 30 minutes I'm at right now. I wanted to make sure I covered everything, and this is kind of like a preseason recap and like wrap up. So hopefully you guys are still sitting here with me, and if you are, go ahead and drop your favorite part of this preseason and what you're most excited about, because guess what, folks? We got week 1. We got week 1 coming up. The next time we'll see these guys out there, the game will count. Let's have an amazing season. This is looking like this is going to be a lot of fun this year. No matter what the win record is, it's looking like we have a chance to have a lot of fun this year as Giants fans, and this has not happened in years.